active guys. Now, I personally know the importance and the severity of this, especially pertaining to your mental health. I work with a lot of young kids that I've seen grow from being timid and not necessarily wanting to be social to joining basketball groups and other kind of social things, boxing, whatever it is. And they've literally grown in self-confidence and they've become like more confident and they've become better people overall. So I encourage everybody for their mental health to be active.
Yeah. The third one is keep learning. Now, keep learning is quite a personal journey for me. Funnily, I joined a basketball team a few years ago.
Jeez.
And yeah. So, needless to say, I was one of the worst in the group. We had a lot of international stars, young women who were really good at the game from all around the world. I wasn't the best, but actually the learning process was great. And kind of going into a place and learning week by week, thinking about how I could adapt, you know, my technique, my style, and even my confidence in terms of kind of attack or defense was really helpful for me in my work environment. It was helpful for me in my social life. It was really amazing experience.
Fourth thing we have is giving to others. Now, I personally, I don't talk about a lot of the things that I do within my community or in my business, even though I should probably promote it more. The main thing I give to my kids and the people that I work with is time, and time is the most valuable commodity we have as human beings. Okay, and money is important, yes, you do need money, but when you give your time to somebody, you give them way more than money can ever. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? You seem like we're kind of sleeping right now. Does that make sense? No?
Okay, and lastly, it's be mindful. So sometimes it's thinking twice before you say something out loud to someone else to see how they feel. It might be just being aware of your environment, looking out, seeing, wow, it's London, it's November, the sun's come out, what's happened? It might be just taking notice of a friend's new outfit or paying attention to something different someone might say. It helps keeping your mind present, kind of helps you feel more centered in your sense of self. I won't go on any further, but I'd just like to say thank you all so much for being here this evening. We have really, really appreciated the company. And also, you may see a lovely lady in a pink jumper handing out some evaluation forms right now. And they're there to help us kind of inform the festival further and learn to grow and serve the community better. So please, if you get a chance, please fill them in. From here on, I'd like to happily introduce you to the Older Men's Drama Group. Tony Seeley, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Whilst they're just sorting out this technical stuff, we're going to present to you a show that these wonderful men have been working on for the last few days and weeks. But before we get into that, basically it's two sections. One is the show that you're about to see, and then you're going to interact with the show. That's what we're hoping, because we know that what is being presented has some difficulties in it, and we are hoping that you can interact with the show. And I'll explain much more about that when it comes to that section. But for now, just to get the audience warmed up for the play, we've got two aisles, so we've got this team here and this team here. So what we're going to do is, if you can all stand up for me and kind of face each other, so you're kind of facing each other's teams. And what's going to happen is we're going to play a little game just to get warmed up for a bit of theatre. Because with the theatre we have to use our imaginations a little bit, and we have to be a bit playful. So this is Team A and this is Team B. Team A is simply going to, and Team B, they're both going to count together up to 3. So for example, it would start here with 1, and then you would say 2, and then you would say 3. And then you would start with 1, and then you would say 2, and it would end 3. And each time each team starts and ends with 1 or 3. That's how the game goes. Just to get it fired off, let's begin. Let's start on this side. You're saying it all together as a team, and you're saying it all together as a team. Go.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, that was nice and easy, wasn't it? Was that easy? Okay, so now, this team over here, you're going to have to find an action and a sound that you can repeat and say for 1. And then you're also going to find a different action and a sound that you can say for when it comes to saying 1. So both teams will still say 2, and both teams will still say 3, but each time when it comes to your 1, you do your individual action and sound, and you do your own individual action and sound. Does that make sense? So we need to hear what your action and sound might be for when it comes to 1. So we've got a hand up, and what do you say with that? What's the sound that goes with this? Yo! Yo! Okay, and here, what's this? What's your action and sound, which is different from theirs? Okay, Irie is a good sound, but it's got to be a different action. What's your action that's different from theirs? Peace? Yeah? Okay, so you're going to do your action and sound for 1, you're going to say 2, then you're going to say 3, then you do your action and sound for 1, and you say 2, and then you say 3, and it will keep going until I say stop. Are we ready?
Yeah!
2. Go!
Yo! 2, 3.
Well, how did that go? Not so good, huh? Okay, so for you still keep your same action and sound you got for 1 and 2. For 1, for 2, can you find a different action and sound? Can you come up with something quickly in this group? Can you come up with something in this group quickly in this group that's different from what you originally said? You got that, and what's the you got the clapping, and what's yours for 2? You have to kind of agree quickly.
Bam! Bam!
With that sign, with bam, with that. Show the sign again. Show the sign again. Yeah. Okay. So you're both going to do your individual actions for 1 and 2, but you're both going to say 3. Off we go and go.
Yo! 2, 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed that. Okay, so let's get all our actors in positions. Quickly into positions. Thank you very much. Into positions. And ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the story of Joe. Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning, class. Can I take register, please? See who's here. Everybody here. Can you get off your phone, please? What? Get off your phone.
Yo, you said the football last night.
Bro, you go. Okay, class, please. Okay, is Anthony Johnson here? Anthony Johnson.
Yeah, I'm here.
Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen.
Please,
Yeah, can you put your phone?
I'm putting it away.
Put your phone away,
I'm putting
please.
it away.
Thank you. Marcus Allen. Okay, Abulu Angwa.
So you know
Sir, you know my name's Bola.
Bullock.
You pronounce it wrong every single week.
Oi, bro, just stop arguing.
Okay, stop. I do apologise.
Bullock.
Please. Can you grow up a minute, please?
Are you gonna let them get away with
I
this?
apologise. Say your name again for me, please.
You know what it is? I tell you, it's Bola.
Okay.
I tell you every week.
Thank you. David here. Dave Barrett. Thank you. Okay, so this week, this session, we're going to be doing Christopher Columbus, the great Christopher Columbus.
Not him again.
The great Christopher Columbus who discovered Americas. Yes, Joe?
Yeah, like every time you talk about history, you're saying like it's white history, and you're not really telling
Okay,
the
that's
facts
not,
of
that's not the point.
That's true, you know.
Hold on, excuse me, that's not the point of this lesson. The lesson is we're going to do Christopher Columbus who discovered Americas. Yes? Joe?
But that's not what happened.
Just shut up, man.
Can you shut up?
Can
man?
you stop it?
Sir, it's Joe hearing voices again.
Hey, why are you telling everyone?
Can you
Get off me, man.
Can you stop disrupting the class?
I'm not this.
You are disrupting the class. Every week we have this.
It wasn't me.
Out of the class.
Oh, whatever, man.
Out of the class. Go on. I'll see you at the review.
Oh, you're slightly out of order. You're meant to be his boy. You're slightly out of order. Talking about that. Usual snake, bro. The review at school for Joe.
I don't understand why I have to come to this meeting.
You've got vulnerabilities and they're not addressing them. You've got there's special education needs that are not being addressed.
I don't want to go to the meeting.
I understand that. I really do understand that, but this is just something.
All right. Yeah. I'll go.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah, all right, whatever.
Sit on, Joe.
Good afternoon. Okay, as the headmaster, I'm going to chair this meeting. Joe, this is your review meeting, as you're well aware.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
That's why I'm here,
fine.
innit?
Can you just be silent, please? Can we all introduce ourselves, please?
I'm Mr. John. I'm Joe's youth worker.
My name's Mr. Davis. I'm in charge of Joe's form for the last 3 years.
I'm Mrs. Rufus, Joe's mother.
I'm Mr. Rufus. I'm Joe's father.
I'm Mr. Charles. Joe's mentor.
Speak up. I'm Mr. Michaels. I'm Joe's social worker.
Okay, so what appearance to be... Probably you can head off, Mr. Dan.
Okay, I'm Mr. Davis. As Joe's form teacher for the last 3 years, I'm very disappointed with Joe. His performance, his attendance.
What?
Joe, please.
Can you stay silent, please?
His attendance.
Joe!
What he's been doing in class is very disruptive. In class.
Can you stop? That's all you ever do. You always
get
get
your turn to
negative all the
speak,
time.
Mrs. Rufus.
No, I hate this school because all you've ever done is disrespected him. You've never helped him. I just want out. I've
Why
had
are you
enough.
always calling the boy?
And you're no good either. You're always cussing him. I just wish you'd shut up.
This is very dysfunctional. I'd like to address the dysfunction. Joe's mentioned to me how you're always purposely misnaming him in class.
No, it's happened on one occasion.
No, it's happened.
Lots
It
of
happens
times.
every
It's going on for
week.
years.
Can we let...
It's happened on one occasion, and what happens with Joe is that he's very disruptive to the class. He comes in, he sits down, he's being in
Oh,
trouble.
you're a liar, man.
Just take another minute, please, Joe. Yeah, I've been mentoring for 5 years. Yeah, and every time we come in this situation, you always get like this. Please, let's go and listen to them. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, look, can we hear from his youth worker?
Well, as Joe's youth worker, I'll say Joe's making good progress, and he's moving forward.
Yes.
And he is starting to become
Yes.
a pillar within the community.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. John.
We have to be talking about two different Joes here. Because the Joe that I know at home, he doesn't listen. He doesn't do
Well,
his
you know what?
homework.
Well, you always see it's negative. You know, all you do, don't you know he's been hearing voices?
I'm telling
don't
the
you know he's
truth
been
about
seeing
the deal.
things? Don't you know he's been in free fall for years? What's wrong with you,
You
man?
always talking
You know,
about
I'm
that's
absolutely
not
fed up with you. This has got to stop. It's got to stop right now.
You know
I've just
how
had
he is.
enough.
One of the things that really needs to be addressed here is his special education needs, and I really feel that's not being addressed by his teachers here.
I think it is being addressed by his teachers. It's just he's very disruptive. And
I'm not.
Oh, please.
We've
for
had reports of it.
God's
This has
sake.
been over a duration
You know
of
what?
time.
I think it's time to go. I think it's time to leave the meeting. I've just had enough of this. Because this school is just...
No.
Joe,
Get off me.
Let's go. Work. Family scene.
going on? Huh?
Big brother. Just disappointed in you, Joe.
I get this every day, Dad.
Oh, not again.
Well, how am I gonna get through to you, man? You know, I just don't even know how to get through to you anymore.
Wait,
You know, your uncle has tried, your mom has tried, I have tried.
He's on my case every single day, not listening to me. Shut up, man.
I don't know what to do with you, man.
Yo, come here, let me talk to you, see? As your cousin, right?
Yeah.
I tell you, son, you for beat the boy from my youngster, you know. Look at him. Turn up. You!
What do you expect me
You're
to do?
the
I've been
cousin,
trying to as
Hey.
much as I can, man. Get out
Hey.
of my, get out of my
Charles.
house.
Don't your ass, yo.
And you always calling the boy, Joe.
You know what?
need to man up.
Excuse me, this has to stop. All this victimising, he's been in free fall for years. Leave the poor boy alone.
You're right,
It's
my friend.
enough.
Yes.
Enough. I've had enough of you.
You know what?
Okay.
Yeah, out.
I'm okay, Uncle.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you're okay?
Oh, you're right, dear.
Look, I know that you're going through some difficulties here, and the family is in a bit of a mess.
What do you mean? I'm not going for anything.
Well, I've heard it, Joe. I must, you know, I know that people are saying you're having a little bit of difficulty with voices and so on.
I'm not.
Look,
I'm not going crazy,
Joe,
man.
Joe, I'm not.
I'm
Beg
not
you,
going
Joe.
crazy.
I don't work. 5 years later. 5 years later.
5 years later, Joe is at work. Yeah.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Oh, I heard you got sacked. You get sacked?
Who told you that? Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay. I lost my job. Yeah.
Yeah, but what about you lost your girl as well?
Why are you talking about my business for?
But we're brothers though. Come on, we got to talk about these things, innit?
No, Brandon, be sensitive, innit? Because it's kind of private at the
Be
same
sensitive.
time.
We're all men here, innit?
But just think about how he might be feeling just talking about it.
Oh,
It's
it's
not
fine,
feeling.
man.
You're
Bro,
good,
I'm not
you're
in out
good,
for you,
fam.
man.
Fine.
He's right, you know, he's right. He's trying to look after his brother, isn't he?
You know what? You know what? You know what? Yeah. All right.
Get him a girl then if you want to look after him. Do
Yeah,
something.
no problem. We can do that.
Listen. All right. I lost my job. I lost my girl. Like, okay, rent's a bit of an issue. It's fine. Like, I'm dealing with it. Don't worry about me, man.
Right out. That's
And I'm
you.
glad
That's
that you're not
you.
smoking as well, because I know you lot wouldn't be encouraging him to smoke. Because that's not going to be right for your state of mind. That's not going to help. Come on, Joe, put that down,
Move
brother.
from me, man.
Bro, listen, I don't want you to be going down that road.
Ding dong.
Hold on, one second.
Come on, man. Be positive. This is positive, bro. Mind us somewhere else. Mind us somewhere else.
Look at the right place. I'm cool, man.
What are these people doing in your house, Joe?
These are my friends, innit?
You've just broken up with... What's happening?
Hey, Uncle.
This is not good, guys. You know how much smoking is breaking up our people?
Nah, man, it's the laws. It's the laws that's breaking the people.
Uncle's got a point, man.
That's rubbish. Joe, don't follow these people.
I'm not just standing with
They'll ruin your life with this rubbish.
Nah, this will ease the pressures from his life.
That's what nonsense you think. You've got to give this up, Joe. You know what happened last time. You know this is what did it.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about, Joe. Get rid of these people. Come on.
Uncle.
They're
You're being
not your friends,
disrespectful.
Joe.
Don't be disrespectful.
Anybody who encourages you to smoke ganja is not your friends, Joe.
They are my friends, man. Look at them. They're
Joe,
here. They're
I
supporting
know.
me.
It has happened before, Joe.
What's he talking about?
Look, if you keep on abusing this stuff, you know what will happen, Joe. It has happened before.
Yo, hey,
You know
are
what
we
is
going
happening.
out? Are we going out?
No, Joe.
Roll out.
Do not go with
Nah,
these guys.
done it. Nice wrapped up. Allow it.
Listen. The night
Everyone,
started.
I'm going.
Joe,
ain't even
I
started.
beg you,
You know
don't
what?
go with them. You know what will happen. Joe, get out of here.
I feel something bad is gonna happen. Listen, allow it. We've had a good night so far. Boy, stop always trying to...
Slow, man.
Nah, man.
Listen,
You need to stop it,
he's
man.
smiling now.
We've had a good night.
Smiling now,
Wait, Joe, allow it. I'm telling you, please, brother. I don't want you to...
Enjoy, man. Enjoy.
Alright, Joe, enjoy, man.
Now party people,
Call me what you want.
Guys.
Well, see it there? Babylon, I told you. Hey, young man, come here.
Come here.
Come in there, talk to you. Come here. Don't go nowhere in your pockets.
What, man?
Get off me, man. Look at you.
Get off me, man!
Hey, officer, what are you doing, man?
Touching me! Hey!
Stay back.
There's no need for that.
Police, baby!
You're traitor.
What's your number? Joe, be calm, Joe. Just be calm. Be ashamed of yourself.
What are you gonna do?
You man, pussy. You're a pussy.
What you talking about?
What do you mean pussy?
You see how things work out, though? You see how things work out?
I was recording too. What are you doing? You're not a pussy.
My man's jigging up and down. Who tend to jump up and down like that, man? Just come out and enjoy yourself, man. Going crazy.
Yeah.
But you know we can't smoke them things. You know what's happening?
At what point can man even...
You ain't been arrested, though, have you?
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
You're still watching the video for what? Anyway, you calling all of this stuff, what did you do?
Nothing. Shut your mouth, man. You got bare big talk, but at the same time, you're the reason why his mindset is
I
like
was
that.
trying to film him.
But you're smoking, you making him smoke all that
Let's
shit,
go
don't do
now. Let's
that.
go, man. Let's go.
You know what, he's not well. Come on, man. Look at that.
Leave it,
Oh,
man.
you're getting high as well, man.
But it's not good for him.
Get high, man.
You know it's not one of those
Stop. You should have encouraged him, though. Or you should have done more to discourage
Let's go,
him.
man.
Therapy.
Joe goes to therapy.
Alright, My name is Dr. Jones. Take this 2-3 times a day. See you later.
Hi Joe, how you doing? Nice to see you.
Hiya.
Lovely to come along. Can you just fill out this questionnaire for me? Your name is... how old are you?
But
Have you got children, Joe? You're looking really well. Thanks for coming though. But can you turn up next month about 3 o'clock at the same time? Thanks for coming, Joe. Lovely to see you. Lovely.
Mr. Smith is my name, and your name is Joe, I take it?
Yeah, I'm Joe.
Yeah, I've heard you've been hearing voices?
Well, yeah, like sometimes.
Sometimes you hear voices. What do those voices say?
I don't know, they just say stuff, innit? They try to make me do stuff.
Like what?
Why are you asking all these questions?
Well, I'm a psychotherapist. I need to ask questions. But Joe, I'm short for time. I've got some pills. You take these pills.
But
if anything happens, you call me, okay? I care about you. I do.
Let's have a look at your eyes. Okay, good. Teeth, yeah. Take 2 of these, you'll be fine. Good.
Hi, I'm Dr. Charles Kennedy from Barts. Can you tell me a little bit more about your childhood, Joe?
Why? I'm here because the police beat me up. Why do you need to know about my childhood?
Was you beaten as a child?
What?
Was you beaten as a child?
Was I beaten as a child?
In your family home, was you beaten as a child?
What do you mean in my family home?
At home, when you done something wrong, when you was a naughty boy?
No, I wasn't, no.
Well, I thought that was typical of Caribbean culture. Anyway, I'm going to recommend some dance therapy because you people are good at dancing.
Hello, Joe.
Hi.
I'm Dr. Sigmund Freud. Tell me about yourself.
Why? What's that got to do with anything? Why?
Oh, I just want to know. This is important. It's going to be a great evaluation.
Well, I want to talk about the voices.
Joe, it's about the sex life.
Hello, Joe. My name is Dr. RC, and this is
I'm Dr. Sheldrake.
Hi.
We take a holistic approach and we give it medications.
Okay.
Can you please lay down on this bench for us? Let's give an examination.
Louder.
Please lay down
so
we may examine you, sir.
The whole scene again.
I'm Dr. Sheldrake.
Okay.
We take a holistic approach. Would you please lay down on this bench so we can have a check-up over you, please?
Okay. Yep.
Two weeks, we'll be back.
Joe,
Come on.
Just do it, Joe.
Come on.
lovely, lovely. Stop feeling sorry for yourself.
Take that.
Think about your children.
I saved you last time.
I hate you.
Ah, voicemail.
Don't do that.
Man up.
We don't
like
like
you.
you.
Joe.
You're making too much of this, Joe.
Stop being an attention seeker.
We're the voices that will never leave you.
Just man up.
Love my kids.
Family, Joe.
You're useless, Joe.
You're better without him, Joe.
Tomorrow.
You're a waste of society.
So, can we give him another round of applause? I'd like you to turn to...
1, 2.
I'd like you to turn to the person left or right or in front or behind you and just have a little quick chat about what came up for you in that, but also what particular scenes that you think Joe could have made a different choice. He could have said or done something differently that could lead to a different outcome. So have a chat with someone around you, behind you, left of you, right of you, in front of you, whatever, and just have a chat to see what the whole thing brought up for you, but also what scenes, what actions or things that Joe could have said or done that could have brought out a different outcome, so we don't get Joe ending up the way we saw him. Give you a couple of minutes.
Like, you know, like, what's the word? The right dose. You didn't have the right dose of
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, thank you for sharing. So I suppose this part of the evening is the interactive part. And I suppose what we would like is what you feel Joe could have done or said differently. And so we're going to sort of play a different game now, where if there's a moment in the play that you think Joe could have said or done something differently, we're inviting you to come up on stage and take the place of the character who you feel that could have done something differently, i.e. Joe. And you show what you feel you would have done if you were in that situation. Because at the end of the day, we all want to learn about how one might manage and cope and deal with situations like this. And without anybody getting up, we don't really see the reality of how one could learn, take on, adopt these interventions. So this part of the show is really up to you to be brave and have some fun, and they all love you. They all welcome you on stage. But we welcome you to try out something that you feel that could work if it was you in any of the scenes that are important to you. That's the game that we want to play. We don't have very long. We've only got about 5-8 minutes to maybe see 1 or 2 scenes.
Even any character.
So really and truly, it's the most important, concerning scenes that are important for you that you would like to come up and try out. and we will all help you, and the audience will love you when you come up here. Isn't that right, audience? So, were there any particular scenes that people feel that they would like to have a try? I've got a gentleman at the back, my brother Dean. Yeah, can we get a mic to him? And we got a lady at the front. So we'll just do ladies before gentlemen. Jean, if that's all right. Jean doesn't mind. So what's your name?
Kadian.
Kadian.
Yes.
Can we give her a round of applause? So, Kadian, we don't really want you to tell us what you're going to do up on stage. I think they're all waiting to see what you're going to do. So is there a particular scene that you feel, if it was you in any one of those scenes, that you would do something differently or say something differently?
As Joe's mother.
As Joe's mother?
Yeah, when they were having the family meeting.
Yeah. So we're going to revisit that scene. The actors are going to go back to the scene where, there was two scenes. One was he was a teenager.
Yeah, when he was little.
Or one when he was an older one.
When he was little.
Okay, we're going to go back to the scene when he was a teenager with a family. So we're going to replay that scene, and we're going to just, we've got KD. So KD is going to play Joe's mother. Is that right? And essentially,
I'll try to remember.
don't worry, you just improvise, do whatever you do. No, it's the family scene where Joe is a teenager. The family scene where Joe is a teenager, that's the scene she wants to play. Where the other family members are here. Can we get all the other family members here on stage? Yeah? Was anybody missing? Uncle? Is this the scene that you remember? So, she's playing the mother, yes?
Just with the dad.
What are you doing? Are you on stage? No. Just checking. So, this is your sister, yes. So, where would you like to go from?
Just the arguing between the parents.
Okay. So, essentially, should we just go from the top? Would that help you?
Yeah.
Okay, so Joe's just come back from the review at school. Let's count them down by doing 1, 2, 3, action. Can we all do that together? 1, 2, 3, action.
Hi, Joe. Good to see you again, my nephew. How are you?
How you doing, Uncle?
Yes. How's things going? It wasn't such a good review. So I heard. How did it go? How did it go, really?
Oh, it was horrible. I don't know what to do with them. I just don't know what to do.
Oh, come on. Just take it
All right,
easy.
guys. Just calm down. We need to talk about this sensibly. All right, gentlemen, just give me a moment with Joe.
But you were there. You were always going to coddle him.
Listen, honey.
No, I think you should
honey.
listen to
He's having a difficult.
Bring your family. Thank you, I've talked to you. No. What do you mean? The mother. Go ahead. His mother is wanting to speak with him.
Obviously.
But he's the father, you know. Just cool.
Hey, I want to hear him out, okay?
Sure.
Honey, just take him for some ice cream. Take him in the kitchen for some ice cream.
Will you take him for some ice cream?
All right, honey, I know you had a hard day at school today. I understand what you were saying, and I want to help you. I really love you. Your dad and I love you, and we know that you've been having challenges. We're going to sort it out. Your dad and I love you. We're gonna sort it out.
But he gotta be a man. He's gotta be a man.
Tell him.
Get off.
No, you know what? Real men cry. Real men have So listen, we are gonna get counseling as well because this relationship is not working out. Okay? So you need to fix up our ship out.
Let's give it up for the
Okay,
though. Seriously, was that real life? What we just saw there?
Of course, yes.
Really?
Yes. It can be. Yes.
How, if you were the father with that attitude, what are the consequences of what the mum said? If you don't like it or something, ship out. That means that the mum will end up. And I'm just wondering about that. Is that the best way though?
Well, she said that they can go to counselling as a family.
They could go to counselling,
as
but
a family.
but if the dad does not take a different attitude, then it could be that the consequences of what the mum wants to do could be worse for her.
Yeah.
Is that right?
For them, for the family.
For the family.
So somebody wants to say something here?
Yes.
Tony.
I just wanted to say, I've had some kind of experience similar to what they had there, where the father has got a negative kind of attitude and a monologue going on. There's no dialogue, because don't even talk to the child. Can't even relate. But like the mum want to try and step in and try and understand where the child's coming from, trying to hear him out, try to meet him on his own level. And what she said there was pivotal, saying like, you know, go for some counselling between the mother and the father, go for some counselling, because that will help for them to mend their relationship. It'll be able to help their own son to try and understand what he's going through, you know what I mean? So what she said was quite right in a sense that they should go for counselling, and what she was trying to do there was good as well, to try and support the young man by hearing him out, trying to hear what he's feeling, because a lot of the time parents don't relate with their children, they don't even know who they are. Do you understand? When it comes to a certain level, they don't even know who they are.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Let's go back to can we just hear how you yeah, or how you felt about that scene, and in your opinion, if you made progress?
Yes, because at the end of the day, if someone refuses to change, you have to put your child over that person, and even sometimes over your own self. So if there is someone that's negative, like a cancer in your life, you got to cut them off, even if it's the father of your child.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I felt the matter is covered really, because I think he had alternative, but also you had a family member who is busybody, is not really helping the situation. So really what they ought to do as parents is take the children out of that environment. Because it's not only that son, but you can see the other children will be suffering after, you know, after what's going on. So it's to protect the whole family.
Yes, and so it just shows to show the complexity of the difficulty of what we're really witnessing in terms of trying to find a way forward. We want to move on to if someone's got a different scene, because we've only got time for one more intervention, and we've got to bring the panel on to do the final thing. So is there another scene that you saw that you felt you'd like? Yes. The Friends. When he got arrested, or before he got arrested? The Friends scene. Okay, so what's going to happen? We're just going to replay that scene again. And while it's being played, if there's a moment where, before you have an idea to play this, to do something differently, I'd like you to say stop. But they're going to play the scene, and we're going to find out where it is in the scene that you're interested in intervening. So we're going to rerun that scene very, very quickly, double speed, and we'll see what happens when we hear the stop. 3, 2, 1, action!
Alright, Joe, get that up behind, man. Get that up behind. You've been going through a number of issues, bro. You've lost your girl.
Why are you talking about my girl for?
But I'm talking about, listen, I'm chatting about you. Just hold it down.
Okay, stop. Just freeze there, So, you said stop. Is there something that you feel that could be done here to change the outcome of the scene?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we'd like you to play one of the parts. Which part would you want to play?
This gentleman here.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to rewind it from the top. Is that okay? And then you're going to do and say what you feel might make a change. So, let's start from the top. Go back to the beginning. 3, just count them down.
3, 2, 1,
action!
Yes. What have I read? Yes, man. Let me ask you a question. Because you're a big man and you're a bad man.
Oh, no.
And you smoke all day. First of all, you're his brethren.
Yeah, I'm his brethren.
And what do you do all day?
I blaze all day and I
You're
chill.
biscuit bodyguard.
Man, move away from me.
Move away from me. I'm closer to my kitchen than you are to whatever you're going to get. Let me tell you something. You're biscuit bodyguards. Because all you do is smoke, drink, and waste time.
Good. Look at that. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
What do I do?
Why are you here?
I'm a demonstration of a man.
Yeah, right.
Hold on. Ding dong.
Let the man say his piece. Say his piece.
Let me tell you something. Ding dong.
In you go.
Hey, nephew. How you doing?
All right. My friend was just saying something.
All right.
So
What was he saying to you?
I'm hearing what you're saying, but it's not that easy. It's Friday, innit? I just want to enjoy myself.
Thank you. Yes,
Freeze, everyone, freeze. Is he making progress? Hands up for yes. 12. Hands up for no. Ooh. Carry on.
I want to hear what he's got to say. So answer my question. Yeah, let him know.
Shall I tell you what it is? Your future is outside the off license. You see that big for nothing, full of water, biscuit bodyguard. That's a possibility for you in 10 years, possibly 5, or the bookie shop.
Maybe. Well, tell me the possibilities for yours. What are you doing now? What are you changing? Because you're
Oh,
here with us.
I can afford the beer you can't, because I don't share the bottle.
You didn't pay for what I'm drinking. You didn't pay for what I'm smoking.
Let me tell you something. That don't make you a man. And if you saw him as a brethren, you've seen his state, and you've seen him when he's at his worst. And you know what they do for you? Let me tell you. They laugh. You know how I know? Because they tell me. How many stories you want me to tell you about your life that I've heard from him, and him?
Tell me something.
Because they're genuines. Why are you asking
Tell me
them?
something. Tell me
You
something.
already know the
Tell me
answer.
something.
If you're making progress.
You never pull us up. You never pull us up. You listen. When we're telling you the stories, you never pull us up.
You couldn't raise under my armpit because you wouldn't have come out soft.
What?
You need to talk on this. Excuse me. You need to talk on this. Richard. You smell like a lazy man. And I'm not impressed. Listen, you smell like a lazy man. So there's 5 biscuit bodyguards.
Get these people out of the house.
We know.
You know what? It's going too far.
It's Friday.
All right.
Get these people out of the house.
You're his uncle.
He's sticking his butt. I'm rolling out.
Big man, bless.
I'll catch you back later, yeah?
This is the first friend I see you have. First good friend.
How was that? How was that?
Well, it's a pressured environment. Life is pressure. Because before we come, there's the best pressure. But after that pressure doesn't stop.
Hold on. What's that best pressure? I missed something.
You're an experienced man.
I don't know what that pressure is.
So your intervention, one for a better word, did that help Joe's situation and reduce the risk of what might happen to Joe later?
Not really, because that has to be fair, it has to be consistent. Because they've been known for frightened. And they know they can come back when he's weak. Now, the key thing that might change his mind about being with them is the betrayal of them laughing at him and talking about him. That's the only thing that might make an intervention for him. Because if in the absence of wisdom, they'll come right back and he'll be susceptible. But if he doesn't trust them, the challenge is the mental health. Because there's an approval, possibly an approval syndrome that he's got. And there's a family environment in that group where he can escape his life for 6-7 hours. The spirit calls you, doesn't it? And if you can numb it, then the anesthetic is attractive. So if
Can we give him a round of applause? Thank you very much. Thank you, brother. Okay, I'm afraid we're running out of time. We're going to have to bring the panel on. So can I ask for Menelik Shabazz to come up and DJ... Yes. Dijon. To come up. So whilst we're setting up the panel, Rua, please, as well. We've got one of the cast members at the back in the kitchen there, you can see, and that's Wayne. Wayne has got some photographs that he wants to share with you, and they're based on the photographs that he has spent quite a lot of time being homeless, and whilst he was homeless, he's took a lot of photographs of the conditions that he was in. So please, before you go, please go over and see Wayne in that section there. So we're going to get the panel to introduce themselves, and if there was one or two recommendations or suggestions that you felt that need to change right now about the situation in that play, what might they be and why? Communication?
Yeah, I thought, sorry, just to go back to that last scene, I thought it would have been nice if he just took him to the side maybe to talk to him and have a conversation, because I feel like that was very antagonistic. And it sounds like I feel like the main thing that was missing is him having a voice and actually being heard through everything, even when he had a therapist or different therapists. I just felt with the last intervention, can you hear me? Thank you. I felt with the last intervention, what I would have liked to see differently is him be taken to the side and to be engaged with, actually heard, for it to be a bit less antagonistic, because I felt that the main thing that was missing through the whole of the play that was affecting him was him having a voice and actually being heard. And so anything that would have encouraged actual time with him, even his friend to be like, take him to the side and be like, you know, I'm aware that a lot is going on for you, would you like to talk to me about it? Or do you know that you can talk to me about it? You don't need to feel like you have to be a man or whatever. I'm your friend. Instead of kind of telling off other friends to be like, don't do this, and preaching to him about what he should be doing, actually, like, what is your experience? And I feel like that was missing throughout the whole thing, even when there were therapists involved. So, yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Yes. Okay, so my name is Dijon Joseph. I am an ex-basketball player, professional, and I'm a current business owner. I essentially come from the same environment as Joe. I technically was Joe a few years ago, and yeah, that's me. You'll probably hear a bit more about me later.
My name's Rua. I'm a doctor. I specialise in public health medicine, and public health is essentially focused around prevention. So mental health is a very big element of that, and with mental health crises, as with many other things, the idea is always to intervene as early as possible before things deteriorate.
I'm left. Okay. My name is Menelik Shabazz, you've seen me earlier. I'm not a professional in the level that has been mentioned earlier, but I make films about healing, self. My last film, Looking for Love, and my current film, Fear is Unveiled, are all looking at the deep-rooted healing that we need to look at from an ancestral point of view and a spiritual point of view. So that's where I come in.
I'm Tony Seeley, arts practitioner. I usually make performances that are around social justice and finding ways to use the creative arts for healing, interventions, and looking at arts, culture, and heritage, particularly amongst African people. Thank you.
I'm assuming the floor's open for questions. I don't know.
All right, let me just come in then. Is there a space? Okay. I've had personal experience of mental health. My mother, when I was 13, and that was a traumatic experience that affected me in my life. And I didn't realize this until I reached 50. 50, 55 or so. And it's something that I learned, and that journey, what I began to understand and what we other people take for granted is that the issues that we have generally comes from childhood. And this is what the ancestors are telling us as well. And that's the hurt. And that hurt, and my experience, I didn't know at the time, was impacting on me in my relationships to women. And this is how deep it goes. And that impacted on me because with my mother not being there, I lost a sense of trust. And that trust translated subconsciously, because the stuff that we're dealing with is subconscious, it's not conscious. And so that, as I began to understand later in life, affected my relationships. And in affecting my relationships, it then affected my first daughter, because I had a child, and I said, it's not my child, it's a trust issue. So that affected her, so it goes on to generations. So what we're dealing with here is a pattern. This is what I began to understand with the guidance of the ancestors. Patterns that we're having from generation to generation that is not being healed. And this pattern goes back and goes back and goes back. So we're carrying, each generation is carrying it, but it's manifested in our childhood. And in our childhood, that's where it all begins. And so once you unravel that, then you begin to unravel the deep subconscious patterns and what's affecting people now. Because this stuff affects you in middle age. That's where it hits you. It don't hit you when you're young. It hits you when you get to middle age. So this is why a lot of people have been hit in this stage of life, because all of that stuff that has been unresolved is now coming out in your health and in your subconscious being.
Sorry, I'd like
Get the mic to you.
Yeah, I'd like to say, so doing this project has opened my eyes. Doing this project has opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that's going on that I wasn't aware of in terms of mental health and stuff. But it seems to me that the problems has been about trust, what you're talking about, trust within the family, and more importantly, more about communication. Is that in our communities, in our families, that we don't communicate with our ancestors, with our parents, with our siblings enough about this subject, and about our emotions, and about all those things that are important to mental health. And that's what we need to do. We need to communicate more. We need to share our stories, share our concerns with our families, and be more open and more trustful with our families. That's what's important.
Firstly, I wanted to say thank you for Menelik for that, because it's a big vulnerability as well. And it's easy for us to judge people from the outside, not knowing what we know. So the question I'd like to ask is, do you use your films in mass communication for our part of the reparations, which is repairing us as a community mentally and spiritually?
Yes, as I say, Looking for Love, which was my last film, dealt with this issue of relationships and men and women talking real talk about what is happening and also ways of healing. So that has come out of my journey of healing, because I had to go through, which I did mention, a process of healing myself, healing, because the heart of it is healing self, because also I had diabetes and all those things. So they're all centered around love and the need for love. Diabetes, sugar, love, the addiction. And we all have different types of addiction that feed the lack of love. Because our community, because we've been fractured for generations and generations, the love that we want to give, we can't quite get it out because we have too much emotional stuff that's blocking it. So what we get is tough love, beatings, or we get a separation, no connection. Do you know what I mean? So my films, and even my latest film, Pharaoh's Unveiled, deals with healing, deals with the need for us as a people to heal. And that's a very fundamental issue that the ancestors want to put onto all of us, that we're not healing. And the healing, because we're not healing, we continue to repeat the patterns. So yes, my films are a vehicle for me to express that element, definitely.
I don't know if you can hear me. Question for the doctor, because a lot of this all happens from a young age, but the intervention is when you're 15, 16 and 17, which is way too late. So what are we doing for the community from the get-go, from the young age?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question because that is where you catch it before it goes wrong, I suppose. And my answer to that would be to raise awareness within the Black community, to have these kinds of conversations that we're having tonight, to be more open to discussion, and to kind of raise that empathy within the community. I think I'm slowly noticing that there's a change, for instance, in my generation, to those of my mum and dads or my grandparents, and losing that stigma around discussions around mental health is a huge part of that. We're still not there yet. As a society as a whole, I think we're not there yet, but particularly for the Black and other ethnic minority communities, there's this very heavy stigma attached to mental health discussions. And the removal of that is pivotal and essential to our mental well-being.
Can I just say that at the end of the day, I noticed that you spoke about your mum, but you didn't speak about your father. Do you think him being missing as well? I'm assuming he wasn't missing.
No, I had.
Okay, so you had.
I had both parents. Sorry,
You had
I had
both parents, but I know
present,
I didn't
but
know.
they weren't present.
But they weren't present.
But they were present physically,
Yeah.
and my dad did the work and did everything, and he worked very hard.
Yes.
But he wasn't present either.
So he didn't notice that you
Emotionally
were
present, but
being
he was
impacted.
Huh? No.
He didn't notice the impact either.
No, I mean parents generally don't because they're not that intuitive in terms of that empathy element is something that they themselves didn't have. My father didn't have that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So we're dealing with these patterns that are coming from generation. Do you see what I'm saying?
It's great that, let me just say, it's really good that the men are actually addressing mental health now, because unfortunately our men tend to not want to speak about it, and yet the issue is there. So men, keep it up, please.
I was just about to say that. There is a negative tone that is attached to Afro-Caribbean culture where the men are not supposed to show emotion. We're supposed to be soldiers, we're supposed to be warriors, we're not supposed to talk about how we feel, we're supposed to hold things in. And I spent the better part of my life doing that. And it wasn't until I started speaking to people and writing music and doing some things that are expressive. That's why this film was so deep. Anyone that does music, you understand that music is a universal language that brings different cultures together. It doesn't have no ethnicity attached to it, but it's a way of expressing yourself. And I encourage every young person I work with to write down how they feel. Yeah, I give them a platform in every one of my sessions to speak about how they feel. If they got a problem, we deal with it together because we're trying to break these connotations and these tones that are attached to, especially young black males, that we have to be tough. We don't have to be tough. Yeah, we have to be smart. That's what we have to be. We have to be kings, like where we're coming from, right? Kings and queens. That's for the kings and queens. But as the story is broken, so it's interesting you speak about healing and ancestors. I love that. It's deep because I was never taught that growing up. And I come from a loving home, but my father is, unfortunately, he falls into that category of the strong black male, which is good to be, but at the same time, we can show emotion.
Yes, it's me now, yes. I feel that there's a big elephant in the room that we need to address. This issue about mental health, and some people are looking at it as an individual thing, I think is dangerous. I think it's a community issue which affects our mental health. I think when you look at the incidence of mental illness. I won't say mental health because mental health is a good thing. Let's talk about what we're talking about. Mental illness, okay, is something that disproportionately affects our community. We got to ask ourselves why that is. And there's definitely been some serious damage done to us through our experiences. And the experience that we have living and growing up in this society is that we have no sense of who we are. We're told every single place that we're something else and we're less, and we're treated as less. So if we don't deal with the institutional nature of this, we're not dealing with the issue and the problem. So I think we need to deal with this. I mean, it's shocking what is taking place, and you know the fact of, for example, what's affecting our relationship with men and women. It's a byproduct of these other issues. Menelik mentioned about the healing. Yes, there's a healing on a personal level. We've got healing on a community and an identity level. And as long as we don't respect and love ourselves, this is what's going to happen. What do you think explains the knife violence and the killings within our community? We're not killing Indians or white people or anybody else. We're killing ourselves. This is a symbol of where we are. Okay, so we need to look at this. There's been some damage done to us, and I say us, people who look like us, people who are African descendants. okay, which affects our reality today. And we need to deal with that reparations of learning about who we are, what we are, and loving ourselves. If we don't love ourselves, how are we going to love or deal with anybody else?
That starts with you, that starts with myself, that starts with the king to my right, the kings and the queens in this room, to make sure that you find, I got a theory that everybody in the community can change the community. If one person in the community is talking to one young person, just one, every time you see that person, you sow something to that young person, you will guarantee make a difference. That young king doesn't know who he is. It's statistically proven that people that suffer racial abuse are more likely than any other ethnicity to suffer from psychosis and depression. Yeah, I suffered it when I was younger, and I didn't even realize what was happening when I was younger. Getting called a monkey on the way to school, and when I addressed the parents and I said, "Excuse me, your children are calling me names," yeah, she told me to F off and called me a monkey. Yeah, and I didn't know how much that was hurting me until even recent years. But if I would have been more reassured of who I am, where I come from, my real lineage, my real history, then I would have been cool. Well, I had to research it myself. But as I said, if you're speaking to the young king and letting him know, much like I'm speaking to the young king and everybody else is, then that's how we break them all.
We're going to have a
Takes
community
time.
response. I really get a community response. That's what we need.
I just wanted to add that we can't just put our youth them out to dry. They come from somewhere. That's right. And we have to recognize that somewhere that they come from is us. And the love that we have to give is what's missing fundamentally in our, and it starts with the individual. It's not, the collective can't manifest just so. It starts with the individual, the family, and it grows. Because what we're dealing with at this moment in time cannot be dressed as like one pill that just drives away everything. It's the work that has to be done individually, and then the individual, as you said, reflects to your, in the family or to other people you come in contact with. But we have to deal with the work, and we have to deal with the healing, because what we don't talk about is how do we heal? That is the conversation that we have to have. What are the steps? Because we can talk about the problem all day long, but where does it take us? Nowhere. What are the steps for healing? And that's what the discussion and the focus needs to be on, so that we can move forward. From the perspective that I bring in terms of the ancestors, the first thing you have to do is to forgive yourself. That's the first thing. You have to let go of the emotional baggage that is holding you down emotionally, and let go of the people that are tied to that emotion, and understand what that's about. So that's the root of transformation, is when you actually acknowledge self. That's the beginning. So we need to put the conversation into what can we do, rather than this is the problem. We all know what the problem is.
What's the solution?
What's the solution? What are people, different people offering to move us forward?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I think there's an order.
Question to the panel, but also to the audience. More to the audience than the panel, really. Sorry, my brother. My apologies. I do some voluntary work, and I was down at the Moorsley Hospital, and a psychiatrist came onto the ward, and she did a session with what they call the service users. These are the brothers that was locked up, on self-esteem. And she said the number one factor determining your mental well-being is your self-esteem. How does the panel and the audience intend to put some self-esteem back into this community so the healing process can begin? And to lead on from that, in terms of the volunteering work which has to be done, when Jesus washed the feet of his disciples before the ship went down, there's a moral to that story. So my question is, one, where does the self-esteem come from? And two, what actions do we take to make this thing manifest? That's my question.
Yes. Okay, you say something. Thank you, Brother Rashid. A really interesting question. As an arts practitioner, always looking to find ways to creatively work with the community. I was very, very inspired by what I heard about the figures around mental health and illness in Lambeth. And I went out my way to bring in all of these lovely men that you saw here tonight do this play. And there were many more of them. There was at least another 15 more of them that responded to the project that I was putting on. They were all keen and interested to be part of something. And I don't have to sit here and tell you, because they can all tell you for themselves what this group has meant for them, coming and meeting people that they didn't know and sharing their stories, and them becoming a child by being playful. And if you ask any one of them, they'll tell you about the sessions and what the sessions have done, but not only the sessions, but just what this project has meant for them as men who have experienced issues around mental health. And so, for me, it's about providing spaces like this where men can come and be themselves and share and talk and create. So that's the only thing that I continue to do in my line of work. And there are many other people, even you out in the audience, that do your own bit. But together we're all doing something. But we need to do more.
Hello, my name.
Yeah, just to address this question, because it's a very important question about healing and self-esteem. Self-esteem starts in the home, or it starts with an image. An image. That's where they're losing their self-esteem, to the image. Now, this film, what I'm doing, is about that. It's trying to bring an image to us that is going to inspire. This image is 4,000 years old, by the way, if you can see it. And it's us. But I'm saying that because we have to, in our homes, we have to have images that we can see. The visual is very, very important. And we need to recognize that in our homes. That's where it starts from. You look up, you see a picture of Marcus Garvey. You see these people here. These are people to inspire. So it starts with the image. What is being, because especially young, when you're very young as a child, you're picking up everything around you, everything. And they're very bright, these young ones coming up. They're amazing bright. And they just want information. And so we have to feed them with visual information as one. We also, obviously, there's oral information that we have to feed them with. And we also have to understand that the self-love comes from how we ourselves are to each other. That's another image. Self-love. How do I give? How am I interacting with this person? Is it from a place of love, or is it from a place of hurt? So these simple things are the beginnings of how we begin to reconnect with ourselves. Obviously, we need to also understand that there were the great ones who've gone before us, our ancestors, who are in this, who can help us, but that's another aspect. But I'm just really, at the core aspect of it is that what is the visual that is informing us? Because our young people are being informed by visuals. Make no mistake. The whole society has been informed by visuals. So we need to replace that, or find and put our heroes, our people up, so they can visually take it in. It may not be an instant response, but it will over time play its role.
I think this is actually a visual education, or educating ourselves from what we know. The toughness, the tough journey to freedom, which is a state of mind. I think this kind of event should be taken through schools, where again, between the ages of 11 and 16, before they become legal adults.
Before that.
Well, okay then, from primary school to...
Is your mic down there?
In the home.
Can everyone hear what it says?
Yeah. No, but we've got a sequence there.
Here comes.
Sure, talk up, man, talk.
Hello, my name is Ranjan Hutchings, and I'm a retired school nurse. I was school nursing until 15 years ago. I used to identify children with needs for referral to children's mental health services. The service was so inundated with referrals that the waiting time was very, very long. And as a result of that, quite a lot of parents lost interest in actually committing themselves and taking their children for referrals. So I just feel that although the NHS is very high on the agenda in this political scene right now, mental health services is still very far behind when it comes to dealing with children and families. And as a result of the lack of services, these children who are just being lost, and then when the time came for them to be helped, it was all too late. And I felt very, very frustrated as a professional when I tried to engage with children and the parents to encourage them to take up the service. So I would like to have some information from the doctor, please.
1 minute, he's going to speak first. Doctor will speak first.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I think even today, mental health services in the NHS are suboptimal, if that's the most diplomatic word. And albeit there has been some progress throughout the years, we certainly aren't where we need to be. And it is a thing to do with not enough access, so not enough help for the people who need it. And you mentioned something about CAMS, but also it's sort of a whole, across the whole spectrum. So adult services as well are insufficient. And this becomes, I think, a particular issue for communities like the Black community, where it's already so difficult to even put your hand up and say, I need help. And then to kind of be faced with all these barricades and not being able to get anywhere, that only kind of makes you question yourself in the first place for asking for the help. And another thing I wanted to mention was that I'm so pleased that so many people tonight have mentioned other forms of healing and other ways in which they can improve their mental well-being. Because I think too often a very quick and easy fix, as it may be seen, is to go and see your GP and have some kind of medication prescribed, antidepressants in particular. And I am a huge proponent of medications. I think when they are needed, they work brilliantly, but they're not always needed. But when they're the only option, so if you go and see your GP and there's a 6-month waiting list for counselling or CBT, 6 months is a long time. It can seem like a very bleak reality. And your other option is to go on antidepressants that aren't necessarily going to help you, because they don't help everybody, right? They are brilliant when they work, but they don't work or are needed for everybody. So that's where the other things that everyone's been talking about tonight come in. It is so important to have that sense of self, that sense of social cohesion, to feel safe within your society, to have some kind of connection to something else, albeit spiritual, any kind of emotional connection. That is such a big part of healing, just as much as anything else is.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Sean.
Where's the mic? No, let's go down here.
This girl was in contact.
She's had her hand up for a long time. I don't know who's facilitating the man, but other people.
Hi, I'm Sean. As you can see, I was one of the actors in the performance. Well, I want to say, I've got so much that we've all got a lot to say, but I want to speak about not my personal experience, but just give some pointers as well. I have mental health challenges myself, and I'm quite a well-known guy in this community. People have seen me around for years and years and years, and no one has ever known that I was suffering, and I was suffering in silence. And the thing is, I can truly say from the bottom of my heart that it was because of my people that cared, friends that really did stop and listen, as we saw depicted in the story, that actually helped me to my. There is one person in particular here, but I will not out them, but they helped me on my journey to my now growth and recovery, but I'm still on that recovery journey. Barbara Lindsay. So Barbara was someone that recognized me as an individual, and liked me for who I was. And then she had the patience to recognize when the things that were going odd within my personality, they weren't blatant straight away. I had many friends, and I've got quite a lot of friends, and there was some people that actually ignored me and ignored my cries out for help and didn't understand. Fix up yourself, Sean's going nuts, Sean's going crazy, boy, you see what Sean I deal with, rare. But Barbara was the first person to recognise that I needed some assistance and knew she had to go about it tactfully. Because we are putting up resistance when we're walking around with the big masculinity. We are putting up resistance against that opening up, especially in a black community, where we are told over and over and over for our generations that we are not to tell doctors that we've got depression, that we're feeling down, and that we're suicidal. We get told it by our parents. My mum says to me, Sean, don't ever tell your doctor say you're depressed. They won't send you in our mother house. Right? So I know it's true, and I've got mental health experience going back from the 60s in my family. They murdered my mum's sister in 1966, the year that my mum got married. Right? And I know that my grandmother had 12 kids, and she's never been given any justice for the death of her daughter. Just took her off the face of the earth. So I know what we're really dealing with. We can talk about, I want to stand up. Yeah. We can talk about all of this. Our play's brilliant, and it does open up one element of how mental health can kick into a youth through the use of marijuana. And we have to be careful that there's stronger marijuanas than others. But I would advocate you don't touch it at all. But the reality is, we don't want to give the impression that all the issue is in the black community, why our black children are imploding upon each other and why we can't get through. We've got a cumulative injustice in society with the way we are treated as black people, right? And what we also have, we have many answers for our black people, but other races want to own our experience, they want to own the healing, they want to tell us what route to go and how we should do it. And if it doesn't fit into the model, then we get sidelined. They slowly draw us through the system and keep us back till they can understand us, till they can find a way. It's like, oh, we've got the answer, the magic pill. No, it's a cumulative situation. It starts from school, it goes through to further education, it goes through to the police walking when you're going down the road. I stand up and say these things many times. When you walk down the road, there are many black men I know that if they hear a siren and go, woo, 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 there's a certain edginess we get about ourselves. We haven't even done anything wrong. We haven't done anything wrong. You see police in front of you, pull over a guy in a car, you're walking towards it, you wonder if somehow you're going to get drawn into it. It's just a state of psychosis. And that psychosis is given to us through the system. Of course, there's other things that give you things. Because I used to take tablets for depression. When you read the tablets they prescribe you for depression, it actually says can cause suicide, can give you suicidal thoughts. So we know it's not just a thing that's internal within our community. Our community needs to start loving one another. One of the most difficult things that I had was coming to this. Barbara recommended me to come here, and I thought to myself, boy, I don't know if I can go in there and be with so much man, you know. And I'm on my recovery. And if you was there going through that process, if we're all silent and told the truth, was flying the wall. Everyone's going back home with their little version of a man, a version of a man, a version of an experience, and a version of that. Because that's what we've got. We've got a paranoia towards each other. We've got a paranoia towards each other. And that will never start getting better until we start being better towards one another. And how do you do that? You've got to face it and go to these kind of things. Go to these kind of things. Yeah, go to these kind of things.
There you go.
Excuse me, just leading on from the young man's comment, the only
I'm
thing
53.
that I want to... the only thing that I wanted to ask was, it is about information, it is about sharing and exposing your place to other parts of our community. So just two questions. One, Melanick, where can we find your films and how can we access them, view them, see them? And secondly, for the theatre group, absolutely well done. Can we have your names, please, if you're a group, if you have a website, if you have any information or leaflets to hand out, because alternatively, we can then pass on your information to our fellow professionals, teachers, lawyers, doctors in our community, you know, play schools, nurseries. So it's just about sharing your details.
Okay, you want to share your details first, or you want to specify? Okay. Just to answer your question quickly, people can get access to my films. My last one, Looking for Love, on my website. You can go to mendikshabazz.co.uk. My latest film, I got some flyers, there's some screenings coming up. You can go on the website and see where the dates are. Pharaoh's Unveiled, and I can talk to people afterwards. And I have copies of Looking for Love here with me if anybody wants that. Okay.
Okay. So,
yes, in the front.
Firstly,
yes,
can we have a hand for Mr. Seeley, who is like the big boss who made all of this happen? It's because of Mr. Seeley that we all kind of said a lot of things in the rehearsal process. And with this being an improv-driven theatre piece, a lot of us were kind of skeptical at the beginning of the theatre process because we were like, okay, where's the lines, where's the... And he just pulled it out of the air like magic. It really has been an amazing experience. Some of the most amazing things I've heard in my life coming out of brothers' mouths standing next to me now, like, where else can a black man, a full-grown black man, just be silly? And just mindlessly silly in a rehearsal process, pretending to be animals or anything else, and think nothing of it. It's just a rarity. Because normally we're having to be stiff in this embodiment of manhood, which I see as the miseducation of masculinity. And you know, we've done this, and to the extent to where what I'm saying ripples into the afterlife in terms of the extent to which we really love our women, even not going down the lane of miseducation, to the extent of feeling that for us to be, you know, solid pillars of our families, that we actually have to be whatever it is the world said we had to be. And we see that in action in its miseducated form anytime you want to turn on the MTV, anytime you want to be watching the glamorized dysfunction of our people, the glamorized over-sexualization, the glamorized just self-hatred, and even weaponizing self-hatred in the way that you'll see heads of state like a Trump or whatever weaponize falsified victimhood. So it's at the rate of education and technology. So it's quicker right now than, you know, what you're looking at changing in this fast-changing world by the nanosecond. So it's something to respect, like the obvious solutions that we habitually overlook, like nutrition, or like a big brother Lawton talking about how check what it is you're smoking, or best off smoke nothing. Like, for a brother's stress, I would say, if you're gonna smoke, make sure you're reaching for something that makes the boys want to hug each other as opposed to stab each other. But the obvious solution is smoke nothing, or go and get the help. But we're a people who've been taught to see going to get the help as a weakness. You see now, as opposed to the toxic masculinity, you see forms of toxic femininity that encourage men to feel even more insecure about reaching for help. That is not anything that you would normally associate with femininity as we've been taught to see it. But we still have to respect all of the different forms, even if it's coming from an energy that's scorned. So there's so much going on, you actually have to sit it down and line it out. And apart from that, the last thing I would say is I'd encourage networking. I'd encourage networking right now before you go home, a sense of community. And then maybe lastly, the cast can just name themselves going around, passing the mic around, as the lady requested. Thank you very much, Tony.
Asked to ask how we get hold of the video, but
Can Tony give his website, and can people not be bashful about networking on their way out?
So,
and can people from the cast name themselves for everybody as the lady requested?
So, just before you go, my contribution was to share with everyone, those that don't know, that we're in the UN International Decade for People of African Descent. And the British government have been asked what they're planning to do to commemorate the decade, and they have no plans. So perhaps from a public health perspective, this is something that can be, programs can be designed in order to recognize the decade that look specifically at the needs of African people and their mental health. And all of those in the room that are part of an institution could be putting forward proposals under the umbrella of the decade.
Right, okay, so we're going to wrap things up. It was said, Tony, to say what you have to say.
So if you want to know a little bit more about the Older Men's Drama group, we've got another performance on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, 6 o'clock in Brixton Library. If you need my website, it's tonyseeley.com, and Seeley is spelled CEALY.com. tonyseeley.com. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, ladies. I'm one of the members of the drama group. My name is Lloyd. I play the uncle. I just wanted to say hi and see you guy on Tuesday.
Okay, so thank you all for coming. Now, just to round up, we've had lots of discussion and talk. We've had mention that we should explore different modules of healing. That is what is also been mentioned. We've mentioned that we need to look at ourselves and heal from inside, which starts from forgiveness and looking at the pain that we're carrying. Now, as a middle-aged, I don't know if I'm middle-aged, I'm a bit over middle-aged now, 65. The message I have is don't carry the pain, let it go. And that's why you find addictions. We're carrying the pain, and that's not, it's a man and a woman thing. It's not just a man thing. So that's the message. Don't carry the pain. Let it go. And on that note, love and light.
Guys, that was Menelik Shabazz rounding it off. Thank you so much tonight. We really appreciate all of you for coming. We appreciate all of you. We've got some people who want to name themselves. Come in.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. My name is Osman.
We're just rounding out all the names of the actors.
Hello, my name is Nigel. I want to say that now is the time for us to change the narrative. Because so many times we have been defined by other people's narratives. So let's take a community-led approach to this protest issue and let's do something and make a difference.
My name's Peter Daly. I'm a teacher from East London, and we're doing another performance on Tuesday in Brixton Library. So come again, please, where we can come at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, and then come again, and we can continue this debate. And you see other aspects of the performance that will come tonight. Right? So
thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, my name